Yes, sir.
Good evening to one and all. On behalf of API, ICP and Whole Medical Academy, I heartily welcome one and all for this virtual update on World Diabetes Day. I welcome all delegates who have joined virtually from whichever place to learn from the esteemed faculty. I welcome our guest of honor, Dr. P.S. Shankar, Professor Emeritus, RGHS Bengaluru. I welcome Dr. Maya, Patron, Dr. K. Govind Babu, Chairman, API, Dr. Vishwanath, Secretary, Dr. Ravi Kirtiri, Central API Member, Dr. Rajshekhar, Immediate Past Chairman, API. I welcome our guest of honor, Dr. Muruganathan, Past President, API, Past Governor, ACP India Chapter, who needs no introduction to this audience. I welcome our today's chief guest, Dr. B.B. Thakur, our patron of API, the Past President, API, Past Dean, ICP, Past President, Hypertension Society of India, and many organizations, a dynamic teacher par excellence, teacher of teachers, a researcher, scholar with many publications, both nationally and internationally, delivered many orations, received many awards, worked in many capacities in Bihar, advisor to many organizations. I also welcome our today's speaker, Dr. A.G. Unnikrishnan, CEO and Chief of Endocrinology, Chalaram Diabetes Institute, Pune, former professor of Department of Endocrinology, Amrita Institute, Cochin, a great academician, researcher with many publications, received many awards and fellowship, former editor of Journal of Thyroid and Indian Journal of Endocrinology, a great name in the field of endocrinology and diabetes in the country, a simple and humble man liked by all the medical fraternity in the country. I welcome our today's moderator, our own faculty, Dr. M.A. Shekhar, presently the Vice Chancellor of Adi Chinchalguri Institute of Medical Sciences, a Chief Diabetologist, an able administrator, a great teacher with many publications to his credit, received many awards and fellowship. I also welcome today's panelist, Dr. A.S. Zargar, endocrinologist from Srinagar, a dynamic personality in the field of endocrine in the country, a recipient of many awards, member of many organizations, publications both national and internationally. I also welcome our other panelist and close associate, Dr. Krishna Seshadri, endocrinologist from Chennai, a principal investigator in several multi-center studies in diabetes and bone metabolism, a great academician with international reputed work being done in the country, delivered many orations, written chapters and publications in the international journals. On this occasion, I salute the COVID-19 healthcare workers for rendering their untired service to COVID-19 patients in spite of so many hurdles in the past, anticipating the fourth wave. Let us not waste the time by reading their CV profile, which runs in pages. Let us utilize time by hearing and exchange of knowledge with them in their respective specialty. As many delegates who have registered from many states, making a national event. The advantage of virtual meeting, which COVID-19 pandemic has taught a new normal life. Now we have a formal virtual inauguration.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धि विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
We are virtually honoring all our guest faculty for their tremendous contribution to their work done in the respective field in the country. Now I request Dr. P.S. Shankar sir to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Thakur, Dr. Shekhar, Dr. Muruganathan, Dr. Maya, Dr. Govind Babu, Dr. Unnikrishnan Zarzar, Sheshadri, Dr. Vishwanath, Ravi Kirti, Rajshekar, Sangram, and colleagues. We have assembled today for another virtual CME on diabetes as part of the World Diabetes Day celebration. We have a distinguished faculty from all four corners of the country: Muzaffarpur on the east, Professor Thakur; Srinagar on the north, Dr. Jarjar; Dr. Unikrishnan from Pune from the west, and Tirupur in the south, and we in the middle in Chennai, Bangalore, and Kalburgi. I am happy to have amidst us my distinguished friend, Dr. Thakur, and remember the conference I attended with Dr. Muralidhar Rao at Sitamari. Your vast house, warm hospitality, backyard, riverlet, and the lychee garden is still fresh in my memory and mind. Dr. Muruganathan, domiciled to Kalburgi, is amidst us. I welcome the distinguished faculty. One of them, Dr. Jarjar, is from my friend, Dr. Parvez Kaul's place. I am happy to welcome amidst us the new Vice Chancellor of Adi Chunchanagiri University, Dr. Shekhar. And I am happy to welcome others, Dr. Maya, Dr. Govind Babu. They are all here. I welcome them and other colleagues. World Diabetes Day is organized as part of the calling of the International Diabetes Federation to increase the access to the diabetic education to help to improve the lives of the more than 500 million people living with the diabetes mellitus worldwide. IDF gave such a call in 1991 to spread awareness among people about diabetes. World Health Organization joined hands in response to growing concerns about the escalating health threat posed by diabetes. And this day has become an official United Nations Day since 2006. The day is marked every year on 14 November, the birthday of Sir Frederick Banting, who co-discovered insulin along with Charles Best, who was a medical student at that time in 1922, exactly a century ago. World Diabetes Day is world's largest diabetes awareness campaign, reaching more than 1 billion people all over the world. The campaign draws attention to issues of great importance to diabetic world. The campaign is represented by blue circle logo as a global symbol to fight against the diabetes and spread diabetes awareness. It signifies the unity of the global diabetic community in response to the diabetic epidemic. It provides strength and support against diabetes. The blue circle emphasizes unity and positivity, and it has a dedicated theme that runs for 1 or more years. The theme for the day is access to the diabetic care, focusing access to diabetic education with the slogan, education to protect tomorrow. The call is to have greater access to education to stop the rise of diabetes and prevent complications. Essentially, diabetic care is self-care. One has to have knowledge about the condition, as it is predicted that 1 in 9 persons will have diabetes in another 8 years of time. It puts tremendous pressure on healthcare professions to provide the best care and protect tomorrow. Hence, there is an urgent need to make access for free diabetic care. There are some simple measures that are to be adopted to change our lifestyle in the management and reduction of the risk of type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is one of the most prominently increasing disease all over the world and the most challenging disease of the 21st century, which has no cure but can be controlled by changing the regular habits and the lifestyle. Regular physical activity has an important role to keep us fit and healthy. The food habits are to be changed and follow a strict diet plan. Avoidance of smoking and reducing consumption of alcoholic beverages have salutary effect. We are eagerly waiting to hear the talk by Dr. Unikrishnan on diabetic management, and the community has to be followed by a panel discussion. I wish the deliberations all success, and I am happy to be a part of this inauguration program. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words of wisdom. Now I request Dr. Muruganathan to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Sangram. Today is the World Diabetic Day. and also incidentally Children's Day also. So I think we must combine both, because whenever we talk about diabetes, we try to not give importance to type 1 diabetes. So my message to Jargar and Unnikrishnan, that we must also take care of type 1, because many diabetologists, they take care of only type 2, and type 1 normally they are coming from poor family, they don't have good refrigerator to store the insulin, and they don't buy insulin and things like that. So I think we have started some charity organization where we are covering more than 500 type 1 children, along with of course, now I am not the main person, Dr. Krishnan Swaminathan, Idayangal Charitable Trust. We have got 200 people in type 1. We are giving insulin pump also free. And then we are taking care of 500 children, where we give refrigerator, insulin, and monitors throughout the year. And last year, we spent about 1 crore 70 lakhs only for that, for the children. So we are getting more and more people on type 1. So my humble appeal to all of you, especially diabetologists, you should also take care of type 1, and you should spend time, and then you must help them wherever is possible, colliding with the NGOs like Rotary, Lions, and philanthropists, and wherever you can use your office and get them insulin free, or monitors and refrigerators and things like that. So this is the only message I would like to convey to all the participants, that take care of type 1 is a poor cousin of type 2, but still we'll have to take care of type 1, which we are doing in whatever way we can. And I must congratulate Krishnan Swaminathan, he's doing a lot of work on type 1. So I want everyone, diabetologists, also take care of type 1. With this, I once again thank Dr. Sangram, Dr. B.P. Thakur, who is here as the chief guest, will agree with me that, we must give some message, because today's diabetic day, we should educate. We must also access to diabetic care. So access to diabetic care for type 1, educating mothers and parents of type 1, and also poor people, they don't get married because of so many problems. They don't get admissions in the school because of this. So all these painful priorities, you must look into it, and education is the theme of this year. So with this, I once again thank all of you, and now over to Dr. Sangram.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your time, and your words of wisdom are taken care away. Now I request Dr. Govind Babu, Chairman API, to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Sangram. As I mentioned, hats off to your energy and enthusiasm to continue with these virtual programs, because these are really important for long. And many of them have been my teachers for long. As you are aware, and Dr. Short, diabetic World Day for diabetes. So I think it is very imperative and important that we deliberate on all important issues that tackle our population, and probably have some increased awareness to our people. Most important, I think, as already mentioned, is the lifestyle that we are adopting, aping the West and losing what we had from our forefathers. I think that's an important issue that we need to emphasize for our community. Thank you very much, Dr. Biradar, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our chief guest, Dr. B.P. Thakur, sir, to address for the inaugural address. Over to you, Dr. Thakur, sir. Kindly unmute, sir.
Good evening, friends. I am delighted to be here, especially because I've been able to meet Dr. Sankar. I'm sorry I couldn't meet Dr. Maria. And I have a very soft corner for South India, because in my making, South India has played a big role. And I'm really obliged to Dr. Sangram, who is a very good friend, and he remembers me from the time of Dr. Muralidhar Rao. So friends, very nicely deliberated by Dr. Sankar and Dr. Muruganathan regarding the Diabetic Day and its on the purpose of the today's meeting, and what the World Diabetic Federation wants us to do. My worry is, sir, I have been always scratching my head. In spite of all the technological developments and the drug development, the latest one being the GLP-1 oral tablet, the digital oral tablet. Why are we not able to abate diabetes? Who is responsible? This is my one worry. The second worry is that we are only taking care of the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the volcano. What about the pre-diabetics? What about the type 1 diabetes? And we have been talking that it's a family disease. But we only, most of us, not all, we are trying to concentrate on the individual patient. Sir, in my practice, I practice that it is a family disease. And you will be surprised to know that when I peep into the real history, as I was taught nearly 6 decades ago, exactly 6 decades ago, I was a say clinical student in 3rd year. So when I peep into it, then I find that his maternal relations, all, and his uncle, his aunt, I mean, good many of them are suffering from diabetes. And then I put this question, tell me, did any doctor till date talk to you and talked about your maternal uncle, maternal father, your nana, this and that? I'm surprised that in 99% cases they say, sir, is it not our failure there? On the one hand, we are talking that we should contain diabetes. What are we doing for the lifestyle? Our people are not following the proper lifestyle. Is the government serious? Is there any, I don't know exactly. Currently, I'm not into the deep of the medical education. But is there any lifestyle medicine course in our medical curriculum? If not, should it not be there as it is there in United States of America? So there are a lot of problems, sir, but the most of the problems lies on our part. We hold the meeting, we talk regarding this, and then we forget it. So, sir, my humble suggestion is that we, the leaders, especially the leaders in diabetes, they should do something so that the young doctors, the doctors posted in periphery and doctors amongst us do not go onto the number game. They go onto the quality treatment, quality advice. Somewhere we are feeling, as Dr. Muruganathan told and Dr. Shankar also, that information, education, and communication, these are very important. And that is the greatest failure in our part. Not identifying good number of pre-diabetics is another failure, which I will not like to go into the details. I will only wish a great success for this meet. And I'm very happy and I would like to Dr. Sangram Biragar for having invited me to be a part of this, part of such a program, educative program. But kindly scratch your heads and look to that part. Why our doctors are not taking it as a family disease? Only in curriculum, in the classes, in the meetings, we say it's a family disease. And when we start practicing in our chambers, then we forget it. So these few words, I'm looking to the watch also. I will like to thank again and wish this meet a great flying success.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time to join this and address the inaugural address for our audience. Thank you once again. Your words of wisdom are taken very well. We follow all your kind words. So now we move on to the scientific session. I request Dr. M.A. Shekhar to take over for further proceedings since the speaker and all the faculty are introduced already. Over to you, Dr. Shekhar, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Biradar. It's such a pleasant evening for all of us. Hi, Dr. Zerger. How are you? It's such an extraordinary honor to be in the same podium of three triumvirates of medicine. Namma Nadoja Diggaja, P.S. Shankar, Dr. B.B. Tripathi, and Professor Muruganathan. It's such a great honor for me to be a part of you three people, sir. Sir, Shankar, sir, namaskara. And I have an extraordinary person as the person who is going to speak to you about diabetes. Sir Unni Krishnan, lovingly, popularly called as Unni. So Unni, the handsome, smart, intelligent, and most diabetic patient-friendly doctor I have come across. Dr. Unni will not go beyond this. We'll take it further, and I request Dr. Unni Krishnan to present his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
And let me just project my slides.
You're getting younger and smarter by the day.
Sir, I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, they are.
And
Yes.
so I think I can start now.
Sure.
Sure.
So once again, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. I thank Dr. Sangram Biradar for inviting me and for choosing me to give this lecture. And also it is an honor to be in the presence of Dr. Tripathi, Dr. Shankar, and so many other luminaries, Dr. Zargar and Dr. Shekhar. So let me just start by talking about diabetes management and the community. Like mentioned, it is very good to talk about diabetes and to also talk about diabetes. But I think it is important to also do what is required for diabetes.
Okay.
Just a minute. Can you see my full screen now?
Yeah, it's there.
Yes.
Only it is there.
Yes, thank you, sir. So now, this is going to be the outline of my talk. I'm going to talk about diabetes management in India. There are challenges. Let me talk about what our experience has been in the community. Like Dr. Muruganathan said, some work on type 1 diabetes has also been done, and how we try to design a new way forward. So I work at the Chalaram Diabetes Institute, which, as you can see, is a tertiary care institute for diabetes and its complications. But we had some work in rural India, and that's what I will present. So we know that there are regional disparities in diabetes care. You can see that across the country, there are lots of disparities and the HbA1c is different. And in this paper, you can see that people with diabetes have an average HbA1c of 8.9%, and a good proportion of them have neuropathy, nephropathy, retinopathy, and cardiovascular disease. So this is the rural outreach program that the Chalaram Diabetes Institute did. And you can see this is the mobile diabetes clinic. And inside the mobile diabetes clinic, we have a medical officer, we have a fundus camera to detect diabetic retinopathy, we have a biotissuometer to detect foot problem. And you can see this gentleman from our outreach program, you can see his feet. He has already lost a few toes, he has an ulcer, and he has just put a net and tied it with a lace to protect his feet. And you can see this is the sad state of diabetes care in our country, in rural and remote India. There is no access to quality foot care or other care. So our mobile clinics stay in the big village, go to the small village, come back to the big village, and then go to the small village the next day. And when a cluster of villages are over, our group migrates. Of course, we stopped this program during the pandemic and we've not started again. But I just wanted to show you that the prevalence of rural diabetes is about 13%, of which half are known and half are undiagnosed. There are problems of access, of awareness, of trained personnel, and cost. So if you look at the population with diabetes, screening everybody in the village with diabetes is going to be very costly. So when we published this paper in the Journal of Diabetes, we just took the high-risk persons by using a high-risk questionnaire. There are several questionnaires like Indian Diabetes Risk Score, etc. We did a very simple questionnaire, whether they have polyuria, polydipsia, vision problems, foot problems, just using that questionnaire, family history of diabetes, obesity, history of high blood pressure, just using that questionnaire, we were able to find that if you screen only the high-risk persons, you can pick up more diabetes. This is especially important in women. And you can see this is inside our mobile diabetes clinic, where you can see people taking help. Women have a difficult journey for diabetes. You have puberty, PCOS, and that's a time of insulin resistance. In adult, they are at risk of gestational diabetes and weight gain. And once menopause occurs, their risk is same as men, and then they have old age as well. So this is a paper we published, and we showed that not just diabetes, obesity is very high in both men and women in rural India. If you look at the waist circumference, about 35% men and 30% women in rural India have obesity. And if you see our mobile diabetes clinic, this is our mobile diabetes clinic. So far, we have taken care of more than 100,000 people. And you can see all the men are waiting to get in, and all the women are waiting even longer, because though the women work in the fields as well as men, in India, women are not given importance, and men, first of all, get into the queue to get in and have their checkup first. And you can see that this is a mobile diabetes clinic with the team. We have 3 rooms in the clinic. There is a registration room, there's an examination room, and then there is the retinal examination and assessment room. You can see all the men getting together, and this is very important to consider, because studies have shown that women do not get guideline-directed care as early as men. This is a story of a little girl with type 1 diabetes. When we saw this little girl said that she did not even get insulin every day. Whenever her father used to bring insulin, those days she felt so happy and so delighted. She never had abdominal pain, and she was using insulin needles for over a month. So this patient, for example, we decided to give her insulin and needles. So I think this is one of our consultants, Dr. Purandare, examining. And this is just to show you the state of diabetes in rural India and how there are challenges. Now, let me talk about our experience in the community. So what we do is we train the community health workers called ASHA workers, and they go house to house. And once they go house to house from the smaller village, they bring the patient to the larger village. And that larger village is where a lot of treatment takes place. But what we do is that instead of the ASHA worker bringing the patient to the larger village, the ASHA worker brings the patient to the center of the small village, and our vehicle goes to the small village. So from the hub, our vehicle goes to one village one day, next village one day. And how do we screen? Already the community health worker goes house to house and brings the high-risk people for screening. So once they come, we are able to screen them. And as I said, there is the registration, examination, and investigation room. And our screening showed that screening is cost-effective. 1 out of every 5 persons we screen actually had diabetes. This is the design of our mobile clinic. You can see the registration room. There's a refrigerator. There's an examination bed. There's a sofa for patient to wait. There's a doctor's chair, a patient's chair. And once the patient comes in like this, the patient goes out like this. So this is the registration chamber. This is the examination room. There's a glucometer test. There's a fundus camera. There's a biotissuemeter. And this is Dr. Dhore, who designed the program for us. This program was actually highlighted in a white paper published by the Indian Council of Medical Research that this could be a way to diagnose. But can this be a way to treat not just diabetes, but obesity? This is probably not very well known, but actually one of India's largest rural studies on obesity. And this was carried out in Maharashtra by our team. 29,324 subjects published 2 years back. We showed that obesity is about 26% by BMI in the village. And we also showed that obesity increases the risk of new onset hypertension and new onset diabetes by about 10%. So this is our experience in the community and how we designed a new way forward. So many years ago, I published this paper in the Annals of Internal Medicine with colleagues, study done in South Asia, where we showed that not doctors, not nurses, but simple care coordinators, just care coordinators who bring patients to the doctor can make an impact on care. So I thought this is done in urban India, in big hospitals. Why not try it out in rural India? So therefore, we did this diabetes with dignity with the Indian government, with the state government. And what we did is, first of all, our doctors trained the rural health workers, not to diagnose the disease, but to go house to house, to the patient's house, to teach them what is diabetes. And rural remote India, what is exercise, what is normal blood sugar, what's a glucometer test, what's a blood pressure test, what they should be eating, what they should not be eating, what are the complications of diabetes. And we taught this over a 3 to 6 month period of intensive. Every community health worker would visit every patient at least once a month for 6 months. And we had a comparator arm. So we took 2 PHCs and the cluster of villages around them. In the intervention arm, we enrolled 300 subjects. In the control arm, we enrolled 300 subjects. The control arm were diagnosed, given some diet as is usual, told to go to the government hospital and seen after 6 months. In the intervention arm, every month, the community health worker would go to the patient's house, educate them about diet and exercise. We trained the government doctors in the area. We trained the private doctors in the area on diabetes. And then we completed the loop. So not just the patient education, we completed physician education. We trained the auxiliary nurse midwife in the sub-center. Everybody was trained. And then we saw the outcome comparing the 2 areas. We found that in the control group, the HbA1c rose from 8.7 to 9.6, because that's what they do. If you leave the patient alone, the A1c is going to rise and rise. But with this intervention of good diabetes education and awareness, the A1c came from 8.8 to 8.23. So just not by an expensive tablet, not by an expensive test, good rural community health workers educating patients can bring down HbA1c, and we showed that it comes down. We also showed good benefits on lipids, and we showed it on quality of life as well. So our project showed that just using community health workers to intervene in diabetes management can significantly reduce A1c in people with diabetes in the intervention group compared to control group. So what does it show? It showed that we need to build up the capacity of community health workers for prevention and management of diabetes. What is the importance of this project? This project actually had a larger public health impact, because after our project, the government of Maharashtra, this project was done with the Department of Health and Family Welfare and the Department of Delhi, as well as the Department of Health in Maharashtra. What the Maharashtra government said is that the benefits of this project are so profound that we will take this project and we will run it now as a routine project. So our project of designing community health worker-led intervention made sure that the government now added training of ASHA workers for diabetes into the curriculum. What we found is that the primary health centers where we worked also changed their management. They designed diabetes-related logbooks. They designated 1 day of the week for diabetes care. And they also distributed medicines, metformin and other medicines, and introduced free testing. So our project had just not an impact in Pune and the villages around Pune, but had a larger impact on policy. And I think that's the way forward. People in the village are looking for diet and exercise, and that's true for people in the cities as well. And doctors are not the only answer, because how many times do they spend, how many minutes do they spend in a doctor's chamber? Diabetes education, awareness, monitoring is the most important. So before I end, I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank all the partners, including my colleagues at the Chalram Diabetes Institute, Dr. Damodar Bachani from the ministry, Dr. Nikhil Tandon, Dr. Srinath Reddy. And this is another paper we published. We looked at the knowledge and quality of life. And this paper is just published just a few months ago. And we showed that diabetes education imparted by community health workers not just improves HbA1c, it also improves knowledge about diabetes and quality of life and confidence. We also published a study many years back on gestational diabetes in rural India, where we screened 989 women, pregnant women, of whom we found that 9.5%. So gestational diabetes is another area in rural India which needs to be targeted. As you know, we also have an urban diabetes health magazine. We educate people about diabetes, and we also believe that it's important to design a new way forward. So what we have now done is that we have now taken the charge of not just educating, but also building research. So this is our Chalaram Diabetes Research Center, where we don't do all the research. We know we can't do all the research. We fund innovative research, and we've been funding researchers for the last 2 years. And I'd like to thank some of my colleagues, though you can say I work in a tertiary care hospital. This is our cardiac cath lab with lower limb angioplasties done. This is our dialysis unit. I think this is what we are most proud of, a rural diabetes project. That is where just the simple act of taking community health workers, them going house to house, making an impact on diabetes, I think that's the future. And if any of you are interested, we would love to collaborate with you. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for listening to me. It's a pleasure being here. I did talk to Dr. Sangram that I do have a personal emergency, so I may have to leave after maybe 2 or 3 questions. But I want to add that just controlling HbA1c is not enough. Just doing randomized controlled trials is not enough. We as doctors have to move out of our cabin into the community and become community diabetologists, community endocrinologists, passing on the message of education, preventing childhood obesity, treating childhood diabetes, educating people through community health workers so that we make a larger impact in the population around us. This is something I call as a dual approach to diabetes. And just treating and the responsibility for diabetes treatment is traditionally on the patient alone. That's not true. Responsibility is on the entire community. And that is why I title my talk as Diabetes Management in the Community, by the community, for the community. Friends, it's been a pleasure discussing this topic with you. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Uni. Let me tell you, it was an extremely good exposure to what a doctor should do and what we have been doing, really. You know, it takes courage, probably a rare kind of courage to give up your, that hold on your practice and barter it with the people who can go to patients' houses and do this. It's an extraordinary revelation. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I'm reminded, when I was listening to Uni, I was reminded of my early days, nearly 30 years ago, when I had just started my practice. Then I had a retired IAS officer, as it was called civil services at the time, a retired civil service officer who came to me as a patient. I was young, a lot of hair on my head and very little inside. He asked me, "Doctor, do you have diabetes?" I said, "No, I'm young, I don't have diabetes." Then you know what he said? "Then you don't know much about diabetes, doctor. You may have read a lot about it, but you don't know. Living with diabetes is very important." Since then, it's been ringing in my ears, and Uni reminded me of this. Thank you. Why is 3-level? We always focus on outpatient management of diabetes, and when they get sick, inpatient management. But he told me, I spend 10 minutes with you or 10-15 minutes with you, doctor. Then if at all I'm admitted, I may spend 2-3 days. But in a day, 23.5 hours, I spend with myself. So if you can understand the problem of a diabetic, probably you'll be a better doctor or a good doctor. And fantastic. We have Professor Tripathi, Bhishma of our activity in diabetes in the country. I should not speak much about that. Let me open up for all the people to bring in. I have my very good friend, Professor Zargar, and another great guy from South. One from the North, one from the South. There is no North-South divide here. They are bridging as far as diabetes is concerned. I'm so happy to be a part of this. I'll open it to people. Now, as the concept of management of diabetes and the community, it's such an apt, how do I say, aptly termed sentence from Biradar Ahor, was done it extremely good. I am reminded of the theme of World Diabetes Day 21-23. I'm sure all of you know it's about access to diabetes care. And diabetes care, IDF has put into 4 components. The first one is medicines, access to medicines, easy access to medicine. Second one is innovative technologies. UNI is in the forefront. Third one is education. UNI again has given a fantastic concept of how to educate diabetics, not in the hospital, not in the OPD, at their home base. And the last one probably would be support and care. This is where we have been, lacking or lagging behind. Support and care that we should give to our diabetic patients when they are away from the city, away from your clinical practice. So these 4, we'll focus on support and care and probably education part of it. I would open it for panel discussion. Let's start with Professor Zargar, then go to Krishna Sheshadri, or we'll start with Uni so that he can leave in another 5 minutes. Can we?
Thank you, sir.
Sure. You want me to start with?
Anybody is fine. Uni, you want to speak a little bit? I don't see any questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I think that, the whole project today, the desire of the patient is to empower himself or herself with lifestyle modifications as much as possible. Unfortunately, this is possible in urban India because you have apps and, a lot of access to technology. But in rural India, it's not possible at all. In fact, there are people who don't even know what to eat. They're just eating, whereas there is good, healthy products in rural India. I remember going to one of the villages and I found that he was eating one of the branded potato chips. So I asked him, you are a farmer, what do you cultivate? So he said, I cultivate potato. And I sell it to the company making potato chips. And then whatever money I get, I'm buying the same potato chips from the shop near my house. So that is how the reality is. So I think it is important that, I think this is a huge opportunity in our country to make our people across the country aware. And I think that's where India, with its millions of people, I think education, molecular research, randomized control trials, all have their own place. But I think this is where the low-hanging fruit is: maximize lifestyle through education and awareness. And in all parts of India, the poor and the rich, the urban and the rural.
Thank you. Professor Zargar?
I'll tell you, Shekhar, the core of the issue has been today touched. I'd first say a couple of things about what Uni told us. In 2000, more than 2 decades back, we published a paper about obesity. And we first time showed that women are 3 times more obese than men. People did not believe it. Then, over the time, there's a global group known as Non-Communicable Diseases Collaboration Group. We have been a part of it, and this is being coordinated from Harvard Medical School and Imperial College London. And we collated some data how obesity and diabetes have been behaving in the last half a century. Now, firstly, about obesity part, because why I'm saying this thing first,
Sorry, sir.
many
sorry to
people
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. I have a personal, task emergency, so I just have to leave. My good wishes to all of you and thank you, all of you.
Thanks.
So, many people perceive that as if problems do not occur in rural parts of the world. And obviously in rural India, and most of the India still is rural in spite of whatever is happening in the urban and semi-urban areas. This group published a paper in Lancet in May 2016, where we showed that in 1975, in terms of obese individuals in a country, absolute number of obese people, Indian men and women were at position number 19. Even Ukraine had more obese people than us. But in 2016, Indian men were the 5th largest obese population in the world. And in India, the obese women were at position number 3 after China and United States. So this is one aspect. This group only published a paper in Nature just before this pandemic set in, where we showed that this whole epidemic of obesity is now shifting from urban to rural areas, because all those habits that had given obesity to people in, as he was talking about chips and Coca-Colaization and all that, now the whole thing is shifting from urban to rural areas as well. That difference is now amalgamating. It is not confined to potato and chips only. It is now getting translated into the same lifestyle, the same lackadaisical lifestyle attitude. And all of us know, you and me know it, how well the urban India is ready for diabetes and how poorly the rural India would be ready. I still remember one day, Shekhar, I was talking to cabinet, during one of the governing body meetings of my own institution. And I showed the then Chief Minister, Omar Abdullah, my OPD. And I said, this is the situation of tertiary care in one of the biggest hospitals of Southeast Asia, where we have one of the biggest departments of endocrinology. I don't think anywhere you have 6 professors of endocrinology. I said, look at the people. He said, how do you manage to treat them? I said, we manage administratively to get rid of them and God treats them. Professor Thakur, this is precisely what I said in the cabinet meeting. I said, we managed to see that they don't beat us up, we don't beat them up. So they should go home. We give them a piece of paper, which we call prescription. And is that diabetes care? No, not at all. Not at all. But simultaneously, Professor Thakur and Sangram and Vishwanath, you'll be amazed to know that way back in early 80s, 4 decades back, Jasbir Singh Bajaj, all of you know, the first idea president from India. He was very close friend of Sheikh Abdullah, late Sheikh Abdullah, and he was treating him for diabetes. This exact concept that Uni was talking about, they created a scheme known as Rahbar-e Sehat. This would mean someone who guides you in your health. And this was predominantly focused on non-communicable diseases. 1979, 80, 81. And it focused on training teachers. Now, in 92, I myself started a rural diabetes detection program with Department of Science and Technology, getting doctors from districts, sub-district hospitals, rural areas, and training them in institute, giving them wherewithal, so that, they could start this screening extra. And understandably, why I'm saying this sequence. Did it help? We were one of the first to start a postdoctoral course in endocrinology. In fact, few months back, I had gone to my very institution where I was the director as an external examiner for DM endocrinology because of this COVID thing. There was a boy from Coimbatore who got DM from Sikkim, Srinagar. There was a boy from Chennai who got Sikkim DM. Now the point is, right from Sheikh Abdullah's Rahbari scheme, Sehat scheme, or my rural diabetes detection program, or this cohort of well-trained DM endocrinologists, did it change the destiny of diabetes? Did it change the way people are getting treated? The answer definitely is no. You see, it is painful for me to say it at my age today, that after having gone through this sequence for 4 decades, when I came from PGI to my own institution, we had a director known as Dr. B.K. Anand. He had retired as a Dean of All Institute of Medical Sciences, and Sheikh Abdullah had appointed him director there. The first thing he handed me over was this diabetes detection program and Rahbari Sehat program. He said, now you need to follow it up. There have been great people. There have been visionaries. But I must tell you, most of the people then end up in being good shopkeepers and businessmen. My apologies to all those who are listening. That social commitment is lacking. That social commitment is lacking. That run and chase of finishing as many patients as possible. Understandable, Shekhar. When you have a country of our magnitude, all of us know, we create a facility for 10 crore people, 20 crore people are born. Even during COVID times, we have already added 12 crore people. So, our whatever processes we put in place, whatever benefits accrue from them, the requirement seem to be running faster. So we need to think out of the box. I have been a part of a Government of India program where we are looking at how healthcare should be by year 2035. We call it Vision 2035 Health and Medical Education. And I was responsible for, as a think tank, how to improve rural health. Unless we think out of the box, things are not going to miraculously change every day. Now, every time you train a paramedic, he ends up becoming a doctor. Next time he thinks the doctor also writes an SGLT2, he writes a gliptin, I can as well write it. So why to send him for and spend $300? I can do it at home. And the moment he writes a sulfonylurea, I must tell people, sir, people still write that glibenclamide diurnal tablets. And people suddenly get blood sugars fine. I'm so like, when somebody's blood sugar drops from 300 to 180, he thinks the job is done. This frame of mind has to be changed repetitively. People have to accept we have a genuine problem. People have to accept that not only diabetes, which is a major issue, this is also translating into a collateral epidemic of kidney disease. When most of us grew, Shekhar, Thakur Sahab or Bakiyon ki to baat hi nahi hai. When we grew up, the commonest cause of renal failure till I became professor of endocrinology was chronic glomerulonephritis, chronic pyelonephritis, polycystic kidney disease, IgA nephropathy. We had never heard, neither taught, and nobody taught us, and we did not teach till that time anybody. Not today, everywhere, the only cause of end-stage kidney disease is diabetes. Data shows today 62% end-stage kidney diseases. Is our country ready to handle that sort of a renal replacement therapy? No. Coronary artery disease. I'm saying, like the word coronary, we had never heard in our post-graduation. The so-called ischemic heart disease. The only thing, what would be relevant, looking at rheumatic heart disease, MSMR, or a congenital heart disease. All of them have been outstripped of their place in cardiology today. There was a National Commission on Coronary Artery Disease. It has doubled up from 2001 to 2018. Doubled up. Underlying cause, dyslipidemia associated with insulin resistance, hypertension, diabetes. So yes, I think we need to create a national debate. The basics are, all these, our senior teachers, I think we still are in that frame of mind where predominant disease was communicable. because that's what mankind has seen all the time. Epidemics of diarrhea, cholera, people dying of typhoids, people dying of tuberculosis, malarias. The role of a doctor was pivotal. You write a prescription, patient gets well or dies. Here, the role is different. Here, just writing a prescription makes no difference because this prescription changes every 3 months. You see, like, after this COVID, many people came, who had a renal failure. Dr. Sahab, I was just taking, I swear by God, I was taking only those medicines which you had prescribed. I said, I had written them for 4 months, not for 4 years. And that frame of mind needs to change. It needs to start with us. And it cannot be done in 3 to 4 minutes consultations. And that it needs to be translated into a proper education of the patient. And that's why, for a better tomorrow, one thing that needs to be done is educating that patient how to treat himself. And what are the caveats once we are writing these prescriptions? This prescription is not holding true sine die. It has its own limit. You see, the way we go to, get a ration every month, pay our electricity bill every month, pay school fee for children. In a similar fashion, we need to keep a day for our health every month. And not only go to a doctor, but try to acquire some understanding of the disease also. And you and me need to make it happen. They cannot do it on their own. Shekhar.
Thanks, boss. Thank you. Thank you for that enlightenment for many of us. I got 2 concepts from you. One is, it's time we change gears from your standard activity of paternalistic doctors
Absolutely.
to an out-of-the-box thinking drive. And the second one is the mindset change. How do we change the mindset of these people? If you can put them 2 together, the out-of-the-box thinking from the doctor side and the mindset change from the patient side or the population side, I think we have an answer there. But I feel it's $1 million question. Go back 60 years, what we were doing, probably mindset change is what we are talking about. Out of the box, give less importance to prescriptions, give more importance to how they live at the place they live in. Probably makes sense. Great, really great. Let's see.
Dr. Krishna has joined, Dr. Shekhar.
Yeah, I see Krishna is here. Hi, Krishna. It's your time, community, can you bridge the present diabetes practice and the community? The bridge. What is the bridge we can do? Present practice, heavily on diagnostics, heavily on medication, and the community heavily on lifestyle. How do you bridge this? What's your opinion, Krishna?
So I think the first thing is to move from prescription to partnership in many ways. The modern generation does want prescription partnership and not prescription. It comes with 2 things. One is to create that relationship where you're saying, look, I'm not going to be able to solve your problems alone. I'm not able to solve your problems by being in this visit, and nor are you. And the sooner, so today I was spending time with a bunch of very young people talking about pre-diabetes. And everyone was asking this question about reversal. And I said, look, I want you to have a reality check that there's no such thing as reversal. We can have remissions from which it can come back, but there is no reversal. So the second reality check I give people is to tell them, look, innovation and creativity are overestimated and discipline is underestimated. Many people don't use the word discipline, and doctors are afraid to use the word discipline nowadays. But I do, and I do it very often. I say, look, think of diabetes or pre-diabetes as a clarion call for you to get back into. So I'm there to help you. I'm there to work with you. You're going to fall down. But But falling down does not mean you're not going to get up. But I'm here, I'm willing to listen to you, and I'm here willing to work with you. If you don't want a drug now, I'm willing to wait for you till you're ready for the drug. I'm willing to give you the time for you to get things in order. But you need to start making those steps one by one. And if you're willing for that, I'm going to be there with you for the rest of your life. And I'm going to respect you for your values, your opinions. But there is no running away from the fact, and there's going to be no quick fix. There's no going to be this thing. And I think, many young people understand it if you're bold enough to tell them, look, this isn't going away. And there is no quick fix to this. This is not an Instagram post or a social media post. A lot of times, what has happened, I mean, I'm not a modern day doctor, but what is happening, and I see this often in social media, in Instagram and Twitter, people going to that extreme about, we cry on my shoulders business. Compassion is great. I've been advocating empathy for many years, but I'll take a step back and say empathy itself is overrated. What you really want is when you pity people, and a lot of times this is what happens, when you pity people, that's a bad and a humiliating experience for both the person who's pitying and the person who's pitying. Instead, create a partnership. Say, look, this is not going away. This is it requires some sacrifice from you. I am there to handhold you. I'm there to work with you. But I am not going to do this journey for you. You're going to do this, and I'm going to be there to support you. I think, this is the sort of a trade-off from those days of I know everything well and I am God, to the other extreme that we have gone to, saying, oh, you're wonderful, how sad you've had this. Oh no, I think there is a moderate space between extreme equanimity and extreme empathy, and that's where respect and compassion and collaboration comes in. I hope this is what we were looking for, but this is my approach.
Yeah, kindly unmute, sir, Dr. Shekhar.
Okay, somebody had unmuted me. Okay, done. Thanks, Krishna. I'll take the cue from you from the empathy part of it. By definition, empathy is when you have gone through a problem and you see somebody else going through that problem, the feeling you get is empathy. But as a doctor, there is a small dichotomy as far as empathy, what you're talking about. The new term that is used is clinical empathy. I don't need to get a heart attack to know what is heart attack as a doctor. I don't need to have a kidney failure to say what is kidney failure in my patient. I have been trained, I have been educated to know what is heart failure, what is heart attacks, or whatever that we are talking about. So as you rightly said, it is time doctors understood clinical empathy and not extreme empathy. When we do that, probably we'll have a better hold on how to really talk with our patients. This one. Second one, I'm reminded of a teacher from Australia, Erica McWilliams. Way back in 90s, she had written a paper, The Evolution of Teachers. She said, for primary school children or young children, teachers were sage on the stage. Sage, they are all rishis. Whatever they say, the student should learn. This was what the first doctors were. They were paternalistic sage on the stages. Whatever the doctor said, the patient should do explicitly. Then what happened? Slowly, the evolution of patients also occurred. They also started becoming a little more literate and a little more educated. The value of a teacher became guide on the side. Guide on the side. You guide them, and we are doing it today. But it's going to happen. It's already happening with many of your patients. There's so much Google doctor assistants or whatever university. We have become meddlers in the middle. They come and tell you this is what it is and things like that. So do you think we should be sage on the stage or guide on the side and meddler in the middle? Personally, I feel we should still be guide on the side with clinical empathy as our armamentarium.
Absolutely, but also we should also choose horses for courses, right?
The other,
Sometimes, if somebody says, "Are you paternalistic or compassionate, or are you empathetic?" The 20 years ago, I would say I would love to be empathetic. Today, I would say it depends. Sometimes you need to be a father. Sometimes you need to be a friend. Sometimes you need to be a coach. Sometimes you need to be a mentor. The patient who requires me to get them out of a big soup, I'm happy to be a father. To the person who has learned, who's been with me for a while, who all I need is to meet and say, look, you've done well. I think you should continue to do what you're doing. I'm following your progress. I'm really happy to see what you've done. I'm a mentor, right? To the person who says, I think the one thing that, that this kind of an approach, in my view, gives you honesty, right? It's being honest in your relationship. In any relationship, whether it is with your spouse, with your daughter, with your friends, it is not the same each time, right? You change it based on the environment. And I have worked in this field, and I work not only in diabetes, sir, my interest in medical education, and I'm probably the culprit who's responsible for some of the changes like ADCOM and medical education. But over that period of time, my view of this has evolved to say that there are no fixed compartments for a doctor to be. As long as you know what is the line that is drawn. For example, if a patient asks me, sir, if you were in this position, what would you do? I would say I am not in this position. My health and my values are slightly different from yours. What my family would expect in this particular point of time is different. I'm here to help make this decision for you, but I'm not going to make this decision for you. So, but having said that, I believe that we need to move away from one model to a more fluid model of horses for courses. What does your patient need at this moment? Sometimes, you know what? It is all right to say, look, I think what I'm going to tell you is the best for you. We can have a discussion, but I think this may be, I've had enough experience in this. This may be best for you. That may be required in some situations. In some situations, you say, look what, I think I'll go with what you say. You have a point. I really like what you've told me, and I'm happy to go with you. And this happens in the lifetime of every patient, and it happens in the evolution of your care with patients. I know I'm disturbing a Pandora's box here, because most people will say you need to be the soft, cudgy, communicative doctor. I think there's a role also for the firm, distant doctor also, right? So teachers have, just like every teacher has to be different to different kind of students. Doctors also have to change, and they can change over a period of time. I think what you need is a reflective doctor, and not a what is it called? A cast in the die doctor.
right. I'm reminded in the early 80s, I'm sure Professor Zargar and you also would probably reminisce, there was a concept of how to empower the people or patients in the community. They brought in a concept called a soccer team concept. I hope you remember soccer team. You have a team, whatever number of people. Soccer is a big thing in America, American football, rugby, whatever you call it. There is a group of people, there is a referee, and before the game starts, they all huddle together. They talk about the way they are supposed to move with the ball, with whatever it is, and they disperse, they start playing or whatever it is, and the referee keeps them in check. So soccer team concept of non-communicable diseases, especially diabetes, became a popular thing in US for some time, but I don't know why it went away. And now we are talking about this, the team approach to diabetes. It's not just the doctor, etc., etc. They have to huddle together, decide about what to do, disperse, and see the results. And who is the referee? The doctor? No. The referee is the patient himself or herself. I think that mindset should change. We'll see. I would request Professor Zargar and Professor Krishna to give 3 points of how to empower people, patients with diabetes in particular, 3 points at the community level. Let's go.
I think personally, the single most important thing is creating a mechanism where a patient can have an authentic source of educating himself or herself about the disease. Either, somebody in person communicating, and this has to be on a long-term basis. This has to be repetitive, and this should not be overburdening. I'll give an example. Somebody gets diabetes and comes to you, and the same day you tell him about lifestyle for 3 minutes, the same day you tell him for half a minute or 2 minutes about a diet and just putting that chart in the hand. Then someone also tell him you can have kidney failure, heart failure if you don't listen to me. It just doesn't work. It has never worked. It has never worked. I think the first thing is, we have a problem, we need to sort it out. And that should be a formalized part of education, that yes, what is diabetes and why we need to take care of it. And it is to stay with you for the rest of your life. Because many times people want an easy way out. And 1/3 of people, our own published data also shows, are neuropsychiatrically disturbed when this diagnosis is made. And at that time, you have to be very discreet how you handle it. And they need some semblance of a psychological support, some empathy. But also, what Krish was saying is that many people have their own prejudices. We will not take medicines yet. And then suddenly you will realize that this fellow has a blood sugar of 200 today. He was a diabetic 2 years back also. It was 128. And that time also, he said that somebody said you have a bit of a touch of a diabetes. Just reduce your chawal a bit, chapati a bit, move around a bit, and nothing happened. Don't give them an authentic escape route. Be brazen with this population. You have a problem. This problem has been there for a long time. It has a potential of damaging your body. You better listen and get a proper treatment. And in that segment of population, empathy becomes a bit less. So you have to be more, decisive. You should appear a decisive doctor to him. This is what needs to be done. Because if he sees you withering away, I have seen an empty number of times. I think all of you must have seen it hordes of times. Give a person an opportunity. His blood sugar drops from 180 to 160. He wouldn't do for next 6 months. And he says, all well, it is coming down. Tomorrow, go to your clinic. Somebody last month saw a blood sugar of 280 and did something, could not get appointment with you, now comes. And you give him a more logical therapeutic protocol now. Let's say now he needs insulin. He said, no, it has already started coming down. This was last month. I did it today. It was 180 only. Not realizing that 220 and 180 made damn little difference. So yes, initial phases, some empathy in those people whom you believe they have a neuropsychiatric instability, but firmly telling that there is a problem, we need a solution. The second class, where you find out that diabetes is quite stiff-necked, dictatorial, a little bit firm. See, this 1.4 billion people are not where you sit across and create a discussion. For good part of people, that is just not possible. There, you just go down, write an honest prescription and tell him that let us try it for 2 months and 3 months. Let us see how we behave. And you have a problem, my people are there to take care of you. And let us sit together again like this. 2 months is not a whole lot of a time. And then I see, and I'm sure by the time people say suddenly they're feeling a bit better, blood sugars are better, and incipiently the body feels good. And then they will be more confident. One important thing for your soccer team. I have found out when you have some sort of resistance, incorporate someone from the family in the decision making, not necessarily the patient. And particularly if that particular patient is neuropsychiatrically agitated, either because a new diagnosis is made or many times somebody's creatinine has now come today abnormal. He was, or suddenly it was 130, 140, it has come down 450. And someone in the family should be taken on board. And that I have seen invariably helps. But I think the key is all of us have to create a mechanism where people can get properly educated, because unfortunately, as Krish, as an intelligent guy, he is worldly wise as well. This social medias, there's Twitters, the Instagrams, in healthcare, they will destroy people. Because you will get unregulated and unsolicited opinion from people who have no locus standi to giving a suggestion on a public scale. You see, if somebody like Dr. Thakur tells to a nation tomorrow, you do like this, it's worth it. If Muruganathan tells a million people, you do like this, the fellow has something on his back. If you tell tomorrow, a crowd of guys, but somebody who has never been at it, somebody who has never achieved any excellence in it, is influencing our youngsters. And that's most harmful, because now diabetes is occurring early, it's occurring decades early. What diabetes, data submitted, I wouldn't discuss on that. Average diabetes, when I started endocrinology, used to occur at 48 years. Life expectancy was 54 years. So where was the time for chronic complications? That's where glomerulonephritis will kill the kidneys. And today the same disease occurs at 32. Life expectancy by the time this 32 guy goes will be 75, 80 years. So he has half a century to live with it. So we need to give him tools that make that half a century livable, worth it, protect his kidneys, protect his heart, protect. Otherwise, we will have a nation of liabilities. So I think there is no one fit for all. Now, Krish might have gone from empathy to dictatorial behavior, but I think, time for a limited time for a segment of population. But I agree, sometime down the line, you need to put your foot down. If you are coming to me, then you better listen to me. A lot of water has flown down the drain. Before it gets irreversible, better take the hold. And I think that will hold true for a big chunk of people in our country. Particularly, I know healthcare also gives a lot of contradictory, multiple systems of healthcare give contradictory opinions. So we need every day to keep on looking at the contemporary reality of non-communicable diseases in our country. It needs to be perpetually looked at, because so dynamically the behavior is changing. Therapeutics is changing, understanding is changing, economy is changing. Shekhar.
Right. Okay, boss. Dr. Krish, 3 points. Community empowerment of people and patients. Unmute yourself. Unmute, Krish.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing is don't take failure too personally for both the patient as well as the doctor. I think the first thing, the big reason why patients don't get empowered is either they take the failure personally, or we make them take it personally and as if that they have nowhere to go. As my mom was very good at this. She used to tell my daughter that it's all right to fall, but it's not all right to get up again and walk. Correct, and that's really all that is about diabetes, right? If you start assigning blame for every slip, the patient's not going to do well, you're not going to do well, and your patient's going to remain, one, afraid of you, lose trust with you, not able to take his therapy to the next level, and is going to get into recovery. So I think the first thing is don't assign blame for failure. Instead, and this is where, you don't have to say, one of the things that I've learned, especially to work with people, is not saying, "Unga sugar nalla illa." Oh, namma nalla panna pol irukke. We have not done well. Why is it that we have not? So what you do is you start saying we, right? That means what you're already doing is you are saying, look, it's not just you, I'm part of this process. I think that's very, very key to empowering patients, because once they know that failure is not just theirs, but it's just a stepping stone to further things. And that while we have not done as well as we have expected to be, that together we can explore the reasons and go to the next step. So I'll give you a very simple example. A lot of times we tell patients, why haven't you shown up, right? And sometimes we get very upset. If you don't show up like this, your sugars will not do well, right? But the truth is, and I have been embarrassed so many times in the past, I would have found out that somebody in the family would not have been well, that there would have been a death in the family. Sometimes it would have been that the person has lost their spouse, right? Not everyone. So the thing is that patients are not somebody who are devious. They come there because they want to get better. So first thing is to trust them, to allow them to say it's okay to not do well, but it's not okay to give up. I think that is the first part of the empowerment. The second part of the empowerment.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I quick? I'll do this very fast. I'll do just.
Go ahead. You have two more. Second one and third one. Yes.
Right. The second part of this is responsibility. Right. It's not you're not carrying the patient on your back. You're walking with the patient, which means that just like you have a responsibility, they have a responsibility. Which means that that it is all right to let them know, look, I need you to follow a diet. I need you to write down what you're eating. I need you to check your glucoses. I need you to report to me honestly. That I do expect you to come back on time. And as I said, discipline is a good one. So the second way is to say, look, this is not my journey alone. I am not responsible. While I'm going to help you with the glucoses, I am not responsible for them. We both are. My end of the bargain is to listen to you, not to judge you, not to help you, to be available to you. It is your responsibility to take care of your glucoses, to be responsible with your food, to report problems in time, to document your glucoses, to come. And as much as I know I'm going to be hated for this, in today's world, the third empowerment is technology. One, again, conflict of interest. I developed EMRs, but I think today every physician should start using electronic medical records. Not just for any other reason, but that should include a problem list. Every patient. So if, for example, and I'll do this because it's very interesting. I was in Bombay yesterday, day before yesterday, and someone asked, and this was a big, it was going on, and somebody asked the question, what if a patient says, I don't want to exercise? And because I had no hair, they said, you should answer this question. So I said, look, it's okay for the patient to refuse. But every time that patient, but refusal is not the end of the conversation. Which means every time you come, my problem list is going to say that this patient is still smoking, and I'm going to ask you, have you stopped smoking? My problem list is going to say that he's not exercising. Are you going to stop exercising? When are you going to start exercising? I may accept you for what you said, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up on. And today that develops a lot from using technology right. For example, I'll tell you what we've done in our EMR. So our patients have an option today of allowing their Google Fit data to come inside the electronic medical record. If we have connected glucometers, it doesn't go to any other app. It comes into their EMR. So every time the patient comes, their glucose values, their time and ranges are already there. I'm not saying you need to use ours, but what I'm saying is start using them. It makes a huge difference. And use technology, because whether you like it or not, it's going to be part of it. So my messages for empowerment are: one, don't let failure bring down the two of you. Second, share responsibility with the patient. Third, adopt technology. I'll give you a very simple example. Now, the last example, and that is, we tell our patients to enter the BP values. And I can tell you the home blood pressure now monitoring is much better than ambulatory ABPM. And when a patient comes in and they have these values and they're able to check them, and you're able, and more importantly, what we have done in our EMR industry, we actually average them up and tell them what is the highest, what is the lowest, when has it been. But when they know that it is going into the doctor's chart, they do much better. They think about it. If they haven't, I have enough patients who come and tell me, sir, 4 days veliyur poirne sir, adanal sugar check panna. Then I look at them, sir, I know, I understand. I should take my glucometer with me next time. That comes, I don't have to open my mouth. Just by looking at them quietly, they come out with the answer. So they know it. What we need to do is only do things. Create a safe environment for them to speak the truth. Create a non-threatening environment for them. Give them the comfort that just because they have slipped, it doesn't mean it's the end of the story. That it is their responsibility to part of it. And you have provided them the tools to feed it back into you so that you can help them better. So I think that is my message for empowerment.
Wow, thanks, boss. Thank you. I think time is up. We have 3 minutes left, and I would like to really thank Dr. Sangram when he called me 4 or 5 days ago. I would have missed an extraordinary evening with you all people. Thank you, Sangram.
Thank you.
And it is worthwhile for the day to request Professor Sangram Biradar to be the honorable reporter of the day, and request all the participants to send 3 or 5 points of how to bridge the inpatient or outpatient doctoral activity with community, this one, which we will call it as community management of diabetes or diabetes management at the community. Is it okay, sir, Professor Biradar?
Yes,
So
sir,
that
definitely.
help you out?
Definitely will send.
Sir, I have one question to put.
Sir,
Yeah.
What about the alternative medicine?
CAM.
Can I answer that?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually, again, I think every doctor is going to come and kill me, but I will tell you the truth. In fact, I'm on a mission on this. First thing is, I'll rephrase what Kalidas said. Not everything old is bad. Not everything new is wonderful. The good person, the smart person evaluates everything and uses it correctly. Whether you like it or not, your patients are going to seek alternate medicine. They are going to get the Ayurvedic prescription. They are going to go to doctors. So the first thing I would suggest to every physician is, one, do not dismiss them. First. Second, learn about them, especially their side effects. Because you're going to this. If there is something good about it and a patient wants to use it, don't turn them away from it. For example, pranayama is something that has been in our thing for years. Today, the American College of Cardiology calls it cardiac coherence breathing. And immediately, because the white skin has said yes, we are all jumping up and down, right? So the idea is, there is no such thing as alternate medicine, this medicine, that medicine. It is medicine. And the doctor is an advocate.
Yeah.
The doctor is the patient's advocate. So one, be aware of these. Second, if these are useful or if they are harmless, the patient has the right to choose. Don't say, just because you changed, I will not see you again. Remember, it's a $1 trillion industry. Third, I
Professor
think
Tripathi, sir, it was a very profound question. What about alternate medicine? For a modern medicine fellow like me and you, their medicine is alternate. For them, ours is alternate. So it works.
Exactly.
I personally feel and I practice that we should have a holistic approach, rightly pointed out by Dr. Seshadri, that you have no rights to comment about any branch, about any medicine for which you have no knowledge.
Correct.
I have practiced this alternative medicine, meaning thereby yoga, pranayam, or you see meditation, then adhyatam, and prayer. I mean, these all work even in diabetes. So we have to, sir, one point I will only, I would like to conclude that finally what I got from this meeting is that the doctor's mindset has to be changed. And the doctors have to partner with the patient. And once you see, in the past when I was young, I had nothing to purchase for my daily uses. The patients used to treat us as God. What has happened? So, sir, that is the thing. And then diabetes has got at least 4. There are 4 partners in crime. So we have to think of all. And this social media is doing havoc. And we have to have an approach like dictatorial plus friendly. And if we apply all the suggestions given by Dr. Seshadri and Jargar, I feel we will have it. We will see a day when at least diabetes does not increase.
Thank you.
Uni Krishnan's advice.
I would like to beg your pardon. I have another meeting at 8 o'clock, sir. So
No
can I
problem.
take leave of you people? I'll request Professor Biradar to continue.
Yeah.
Thanks
So
a lot.
we are closing. Before we close, we will have one key takeaway from each panelist and we'll close. So
I will
Dr.
leave,
Jargar,
sir.
yeah, you can
I
leave,
will
sir.
leave. I will
Yeah,
leave.
okay.
I
Dr.
would say
Jargar, yeah.
one single thing that I would say, creating a mechanism to empower a patient with proper education about diabetes. And this has to be sanitized according to the local conditions and the different social stratas of the community. Some mechanism where he can find authentic understanding of diabetes and its related issues.
Fine, sir. Dr. Krishna.
Haven't I spoken enough? But anyway, in one word, create partnerships.
And one word,
Thank you. Yeah, from
involve
Thakur,
family.
sir.
Involve family.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine, sir. Fine. So I once again thank all the panelists and the speakers and our chief guest. So before we conclude, I request Dr. Vishwanath, Secretary, to propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Vishwanath?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think we had a wonderful talk. And first of all, my heartfelt thanks to the 2 luminaries, Dr. P.S. Shankar, sir, and Dr. B.P. Thakur, sir. And we have a lot of things, wisdom to learn from you people. I also thank our esteemed speaker, Dr. Uni Krishnan. It was really wonderful to see the amount of work his center is doing and how we all have to be proactive in reaching the community in treating diabetes. And special thanks to Professor Zargar and Krishna Seshadri, sir. It was wonderful listening to you. Really prescription to partnership, empowering patients, empowering people, empowering community. I think these are the things from API also. Definitely we'll all take up some efforts in whatever the discussion has been there. I think we'll all work to strive towards working towards it. I also thank my chairman, Dr. Govind Babu, for coming over, and special thanks to Dr. Sangram Biradar, sir. Because as always I tell, he is the engine of our academic activities. He keeps doing this, bringing the best of the faculty from all over the country and giving us the wisdom. I thank all the delegates who have come here and logged in and listened to this. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Krishna, Dr. Jargar, sir. Dr. Thakur,
Wonderful
sir.
day, Dr. Jargar and Dr. Seshadri.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I learned a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. God
Thank you, sir.
bless you, sir.
God bless
Take
all
care.
of us.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Blessings.
Good
Blessings to all of you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.